Space galactic rising. It's amazing how we come to that line center interference location calculations. Weather patterns, high channels. No, the metric interference location calculations. Every time I go on live, it tracks line centers. It's all about understanding identification, high stream. Its position, location, and directions. Setting new signals, high interference, position program setting, run program initiate. No. To understand how to set up a line center locations in art rather than program setting. To understand how to set up all communications to its operation. Its center its communication line streams. So it's basically understanding that today in class, we're going to travel through a snow globe. Everybody knows what that is, and you shake it up. It's interesting to look at those things, right? It's pretty powerful stuff. That's going to take us to 50 million line center. That's going to be 50 million years in the high line center rotation interference location calculations. So, vortex communication triangles, set line center, coarse interference locations, get them to travel line inner rotation. Vector over pi, calculation high stream, line centers communication system. Time stream high line interference, energy domes, calculation high center. Open all communications to sectors, vectors, quadrant line centers, intermesh locations, eternity one line. Open all communication system. Now, platitude division location, 50 million channels, 50 million years in the future line communication line stream. Put them in the position location, line center. Get them to look up. See the sun line center, trial location. Guys are traveling. All right, setting line interference and position location directions shows you exactly how fast you can travel through line centers. Set location to code line rotation interference. Indirect locations. Snow globe. All right. So we got the vector line cross in equal locations, ground levels at equal line center location of high lines. Okay, and acceleration. Time swixy time lines, interference, position, location, directions. Setting reline centers. Now a relay program, you get a line center location relay. Okay. So it's kind of like being in position location calculations, right? Okay, so you're overlapping. Line center, line equals line center. Calculation interference. Now, aught opens all communication to its line conditions into all positions to its high conditions of its snow globe. Cross streamline center and rotation calculations, setting 50 million relays. Okay, let's go. 50 million relays, top line center location. All right, so have fun. Future communication, all setup lines, all line and rotation calculation. All right. So really understand that you can travel through anything. It's interesting too because in that line center interference back force clock location, I've had snow globes where you shake them and all that and see the snow come down and all that. Particle lights, particle streams, high line and rotation calculations. But sending you guys into a 50 million lap center. Okay, to understand that 50 million. Okay, equals lap center. Okay. Lap equals location of command center. All right. Platitude location calculation. Now, center communication centers is all levels of how you use your sequence pattern. Now, sequence pattern has its position locations. Operation circle. And this is where you come to location. Now, you don't have to put operation. You just understand O. O stands for operation. It's pretty easy. It's pretty standard. So you got operation slash, okay, vector, okay, over, okay, cross signal, okay, slash signal, line connection, line equals all levels of snow globe. There's so many termination line center interference have set locations of 50 map centers. 50 maps, 50 times 1 is 50 million line center locations. It's interesting to look at these things because it platitudes on so many level connections, guys. It's extremely powerful when you come into the line center. But there's so many ways to set up a snow globe at different direct locations. You can go through 25 million lines, you can go through 50, but you really have to understand the sequence pattern when it comes into maps. Maps of equation. I really want to focus on those things. It puts position, location, and directions. High channels, line center. High interference, position, location. All right. Circle line center rotation interference calculation system. Right. Now, travel location is always on a 45-degree angle line. All right. Rotation spin stop locations in the high line center channel communication system. One-way line center, opposite way location. Now that one-way takes line center rotations where it comes into one-way, one cross stream. Okay, it's like you have a one-way. You go down a one-way. You can't go the opposite way. It's a one-way. So if you got an arrow pointing this way, you can't have cars going the opposite way because it's a one-way. So it's true to understand how to set these things up in line connection interference. Position of directions comes into block circles, block squares, block triangles, block interference, block programs, blocks operation, overcross streams, high line center interference, position of direction. Okay? So the more you accelerate, the more you come into mind. The mind sets signals in high line center in position of more direct location of sonar connections. High channels is operation signal. Now that rotates its surface. That centers line interference. That sets new rotation to ground line rotation. Ground spins in so many line dimensional line center interference in position of its program setting. High levels of communication into flux capacitor. Flux capacitor comes in high and high center location. You see the division location is high system. See that? High channels its line center comes into its diamond core line center interference. Position location of calculations, setting line channels, interference position direction. So it's very powerful when you really trap these line connections, right? You change the coloration. Remember, it's all connected to transmitting and receiving information location to track line locations, all right? So let's go in the golden line circle. We got gold line rotation and calculation. Right, see the gold? Now, the gold centers its line center. It's the highest formation location. You got particle streams, particle lights, particle interference, particle programs, particle computer interference, CPU, and line center rotation operation calculation. It's high generation line centers in rotation in calculations. Center line communication to travel. See? Travels. Change the coloration again. Let's go into security line division. Security line division location opens a new planet line. Calculation of Fibonacci sequence pattern with all communication centers. Resets line communication. Now, setting relines is all about relay. Relay program initiate, run program sequence, position location direction. So, intelligence signals highline channels. It's about understanding how to vortex lines of shapes, your geometry line and rotations. The connections to its position opens all line center. So we go through another coloration, rotation line interference. We come into the green line center. Now the green line center location comes into heart position location. Just showing you how many times you can go through circle line centers or realms. It communicates a different coloration of path. Position of direction locations opens all new channels. So when you go through these channels, you have to really understand how to use your alpha communication, your delta wave line centers, your beta line center rotations of density communication system, your theta channel communication, the perception line connections, and everything through all levels of your omega circle line center rotation interference or calculation system. Everything box its position of directions, right? So I really want you guys to understand that position location is T equals line center of the mind. Mind equals location equals all levels of travel. Okay, you come into travel equals mind, and then mind equals travel. Now, when you come in that line center, it comes in position location to all levels into phenomenon. Phenomenon equals TV line connection. Okay, right at the bottom. Now, once you get into the phenomenon channel, the position of directions changes to telepathy signal. Telepathy over cross location, right? So you got the T line center. I really want you guys to learn how to use your alphabetical line connections. So you got tele line center. Okay, equals line. Okay, equals center. Now this center line comes into all UFO position location and calculations, right? Center communication system. Pretty simple, right? Just showing you how you can use line connections. It's all levels of how you use the correlation. The number one sequence pattern is true learning is how to set up communications of dimensional line centers. It opens all communication and interference. It puts position, location, and directions. Center communication is all of you. Right? So center equals center equals center. Right? Triangulation right there. Center point location comes in downline shift. Position locations into 3-line triangle location. Position off direction, center communication, offline rotation center, back in calculations. Setting program location all levels of triangulation. So you see the intelligence? The high line center, the high rotation circle, in rotations all levels of map sequence. That position location is high system. That allocate timelines. XT thousands come in, they cross the streamline center. They row graph its position location to a system. See how it travels? That's where it goes zip, zap, zoom, right? So, right? So XT thousands do not fly. They levitate. They glide. Right? That position of direction is trying to stand in the sound barrier it catches, right? Right? So it has so many cross signals. Set an XT thousand line string is all position location lines. Portal line center location has its point system. One here, one here, one here. And you can have one line center rotation into high position location calculations. 4-point line centers, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? 5, 6, right? So you got 4 cross signals into the diamond core to 3 atmosphere locations, 1, 2, 3. That's 7-line connection. 7-line connection in direction, right? Now, setting line center rotation, the 7 sequence pattern opens all line. It opens all line center triangle line connections into 1 position, into 2 position, into 3 position. 3-line communications in the 7 location. All right, so it gets complicated, it gets more advanced. This is extremely high rise. This is 50 million years of information. See, we're in 50 million years in the future. This is what it is, the core line center location, how you use letters, numbers, and shapes. That's 50 years of information through a triangle line connection, right? And remember, triangles are not triangles. They're everything is formation. Triangle equals 7. 7 equals triangle, location to a system. Once you understand that, then it gets much easier. And then the triangle line center comes into the 7 position, which is the center operation. Triangle 7. 7 triangle. So if you get a 7 triangle and another 7 location in the center line center of interference, 7 location is what? Equal line conditions is a plus channel equals 14 position of direction, right? 7 plus 12, miscalculation of what? 12 atmospheres aligning in rotation. 7 equals 12. 12 equals 24 in direct location calculation. So that automatically line centers its rotations. It comes into a pause line rotations. Now you come in the line center rotations, comes into a triangle communication center. Okay, sets line, course line conditions. Once you come into that platitude, triangle equals location of 5. That's 5 position location in a triangulation of 12. 15 million years in the future technology. So line communication, this is where you take the letters, numbers, and shapes and symbol line positions. Now it allocates line string. I'm just showing you how powerful it is to be 50 million years in the future and giving you everything through structure, through equation. Setting course line channels. We talked about that before. So when you come in at line center interference, you really understand how to box position location, equal line connection, triangle line center, inner rotations calculation, equal line center, XT thousand line position. Okay. So the XT thousand comes in the center line communication, sets course line channels. Half pipe. Line communication and triangulation set line position location into its all line center. Okay. Position location, point system, point system, point system, point system. Okay. Center operation line center, XT thousand go in the center line for rotation calculations. Zip zap zoom equation, high interference. So to understand how things are set up in future line connections. Future equals over slash line connections communications. Let's go through line connection interference at ground level. communication all levels. 4, communication equals operation. Operation slides down line center, levels of communication, line connections equals line interference to ground lines of communication. So you really, really have to understand how to get friendship, relationship, partnerships with everything to the line connections. It opens all communication signals in rotation. All right. So I'm just showing you the platitude division locations where you're in the future communication of yourself. Really understand the integration to a center. So you get a Fibonacci circle, line center line rotation. But you look at it, you say it's just a swirl, but it's not. It's not a swirl, is it? But it looks like a swirl, right? So this is a swirl line center location, a 6-dimensional line connections, a cross-site location, a 3-dimensional line rotation, which is 1, 2, 3 communication of pyramid line center interference. Now that position location comes into its time frame. Time frame line center rotation comes into its box position. Box position locations come to high line channel rotations calculations. High position locations high line center. Overcross signal into another Fibonacci sequence square. That opens all position location high line center calculations. Setting course line channels and communication low line center into your DNA track location, 8 position location calculation. 15 million years in the future of information. So if you understand the calculations to your system, you truly understand how to use this. Okay? It's a lot more fun when you understand levels, right? Travels through the mind line, and then the mind comes into the travel location. So you can also use line connections. Let's say you go through the Q line center. I'm looking at my keyboard right now. Q equals line center of W. W is position location equal lines location of E. E circle location, position location of E line connections to ground. Ground comes into all levels of neutralized communication system. Position of directions, all through keyboard line center. Keyboard interference, position location calculations. The future communication, when it comes into commanding center, is to understand how to set line communication system to allocate line center rotation. So it's important you understand how to use your alphabetical system, letters, numbers, and shapes. It's just a program setting. Now, if you get a box position locations, right, you got a circle line rotation and swirl line interference. Now it's a swirl, right? That swirl comes out line center rotations, goes in the opposite circle line connections, right? This back force equal line connections. When it equals its connection, we hide position location of its directions. It opens all communication signals, right? Equal line connection. It's amazing how you travel through these things. Equal, right? This is negative over pause location, right? So the negative over line center comes into the center line communication to triangulation. So this is where you take the positive equals negative and negative equals positive location. All right. So it's sure you understand how to use your line connections. You know, it's really complicated, right? When you understand, wow, 50 million years of future line. What is that all through information location? I told you, you got to get relationships with yourself first. Then you understand that, and then you just scratch everything and start all over again and get in position location to its directions, how to integrate line communications to its alphabetical string and its keyboard line phrase. Line center location at all level position location, flight navigations to 1 to 12, interline rotations, caps, locks, frequencies, shifts, control, panels, escape, high center, interference, position location, line connections, open all levels, kaleidoscope line channels, interference positions, all line connections, Y line center, interference location, intel line position, bracket interline rotation, calculate high center locations, calculation interference location, 5 line center rotation, center line communication, center position. So really understand how to use sequence line connections of patterns, rotation, interference of rhythm, rhythm of communication, electrical graph communication system, timeline times pi, box center position case calculation. So this is times pi, this is times pi, and this is times pi. 3 line communications, line center, 24 position locations, 48 line center to 72 line connections, all levels, into its computer operation system to its time frequency timelines of communication. So once you understand more levels of future communication, you understand your commanding center. Now this comes from an energy dome line rotation, electrical light communication system to its ground line center interference locations calculations, high channels of position. High line center ground interference position calculations, high channels its line center, 3 line center rotation, calculation high stream, putting direction, outline center equation, set line connections to the moon, moon set line center rotation interference, sets course line interference because I'm traveling very fast, planet rotations calculation. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is so you understand intelligence of what it is and understand the position locations. If you get a T-line center, there's a T, right? So the T-line center is set up in the circle location. Understand, recognize the timelines or anything position and track location is the center of operation line system. The high line center rotation opens all circle locations calculations, right? Now, when you understand that line center, it's on a 45-degree angle, okay? Percentage over line cross. Line cross streams in position location to half pipe. Half pipe position location into circle location. High channels its line signal and rotation to another circle location in position of time. High centers its high end rotation calculated Fibonacci sequence. It position location of directions. High line center to more security patterns and program setting. Recenter line communications into 45% of allocate timeline. So why is it so complicated from information location? But why is it so easy to understand the information? Because it's all levels from what? Friendship and relationship and partnership from all intelligence. When you start traveling through the mind starts traveling through you. And then you really understand what Y line center is. We already know what Y is. Y equals vector into flux capacitor, position, location, directions. Setting line communication system, right? Channel line communication is all of this line connections. There's the Y in position location. There's the Y. Okay, there's the Y into equals vector line. See the vector line communication. Equalize locations. XT1000 up position location. Down cross stream in high center location. And direction. Now, it's really complicated because you don't know what it is until you understand the levels of your friendship, relation, and partnerships with everything you calculate, modify, high interference, location, and calculation, right? So it's important to understand these things because the XT1000 set line communication of planets, position, location, and directions, one way and the opposite circle. Two planet line rotations, XT1000 communicates with both. Signal position of both side line connection. Now the line communication scans the operation circles. Rotation interference, all positions, all levels. Position directions, XT1000 comes up, sets line communication, resets line channels, signal rotation. So, why is it so important to understand intelligence? Right? It's all forming of you. Now, if you get a form communication, form equals communication, communication over triangle. Triangle cross signal locations come into levels of Merkaba. Merkaba is just basically the ground line center rotation into ground location. To understand position location is the torical field line center. Now that center line position location to its orb communication system. Timelines times line interference into energy field position location calculations. Center line communication line centers. That form communication comes in higher line center. The Merkaba comes out position location directions, setting course line and rotation interference to its tesseract tetrahedron location. Now, position of direction, I was trying to understand, what am I talking about? What's the importance of this? Well, it's trying to understand how you get into your abundance. Let's see, abundance communication equals line connection, right? Line equals box. Box position location, $sign, set line communication system. There's your abundance right there. Triangulation around 1, 2, 3 location. Ooh-ah. Center communication interference, position location and directions, high lines, channels, open all communication line rotation. So it's sure you understand all of the ground location, you understand the power lines and the opposite line interference, magnetic highway commission system, electrical light communication, three-wave signals, high line center interference locations. That's 6 position location and direction. You stand in the center line of communication, electrical lights, in position line center, rotation interference, position location calculation. Center up high system. That's you in position. So it's important you understand what mind over travel is. I'm not traveling anymore. It's mind over travel into the phenomenon. Everything I'm doing is phenomenon over standing, over provision, over tactic view, alpha channel communication, delta waves, modify signals and rotation, center line rotation calculation, communication interference, XT1000 line connections, offline channel, off interference, in position location direction, right? So anything that you sequence pattern location is the box position locations. Box is not a box, and position location of what it is. It's everything in a line center in calculation to a system, position location of its directions. That's all it is. It's not this, it's this. Going beyond the mine line center, mine equals a high line center equation over line conditions into all levels. Levels equals grounds, communication system, timelines times frequency times pi, position over direction. Okay. So this is extremely advanced technology. Everything that I'm saying is all levels of codes. High channel line and rotation, interference, specification, directions. All right. So you got a circle line center rotations. You got a point line center position. You got 3 line communication centers. 1, 2, 3. Right. Want to communicate with those, triangulation. Right. So this the allocate line center comes into all position. Let's say it's a 15-minute line center. 15 minutes. That's times pi. Okay. 15 goes into 30. 30 goes into 60. And justification into all levels. 1 minute. 1 minute line center rotation calculations. All levels at 3 triangle location. Now, why is it so important? Like I say again and again and again, what does this all mean? Right? It's all levels of you to balance out you of the yin and yang of everything that you do through process, interference, location, and calculations. Hoo-ah. So, bound on so much information. It's a lot of fun, isn't it, when you understand what's going on? But do you understand what's going on? It's you in friendship, relation, and partnership. Friendship equals partner. Relationship equals partnership. Right? So the F position location comes into form. Circle the F line center interference, equal line conditions of relationship. Okay? Slash relationship. Relationship comes into all levels of reminder. Communication line centers a program. So friendship equals relationship, relationship equals online center partnership, partnership equals program, position, location, direction. Hooah. There's so many line connections of interference, position, location. I can just keep going and 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 going. Right? It's important you understand what I am doing. Because what I do, you become. Right? That centrals your communication system to all levels of time and all levels of frequency to its line connection, right? If I can send a line graph in a 45-degree angle, 45-degree equals angle. There it is, right there. It's not a line, it's a 45-degree line center location. Time sequence, timeline, center, triangulation, right? So across the string line center, now we set up another triangle location is center line position calculation. 3 communication centers, right? We come into 1 line center, 2 position location, 3 position. Center line connection, all levels of Fibonacci sequence of a location high system. Timeline and interval rotations calculations. Setting reline rotation calculations and interference, direct locations. High channel line center into another circle line rotation calculations. Right? Comes into all communications to on line of a film projector location into high system. All right. So, how are we all doing? All right. Just keep going and going and going and going and going. How's everybody doing? Jeanette, how's it going? Gypsy, Dawn, Terry, Jill, Amby, Airbender, Heather, Lindsay, Esther, Danny. Let's see, Jill set up Pam, Amani. All right, so Missy, how you doing? Data structures, Laura, Nova. All right, so you got your call signs. That's good. Pyra, Yolanda. Let's see, Guardian, Val. Okay, so there's a lot going on. Sammy. Okay, I'm seeing where you guys are through lock centers and rotation calculation high center. Everything I say is all volume, right? It's connected to everything through energy line. I just gave you 50 million years of future communication of information. Boom. 50 million years. That's all levels in future line connection. You guys can get there too. You just have to understand all levels of you in position of direction, how things are set up in letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols. Because everything is position, location, and directions to understand you to all levels of equation, right? So inside the higher frequencies, the more aligned the geometric is. Wow, it makes so much sense. Yes, it is. Higher channel, line center, transmitting, receiving. Okay, suits on. Great. Yeah, I put you guys in your thermals. That's great. I see different. It's like a snow tunnel with colors. Thermal suits. Jack Frost. Nipping on my nose. I've seen the diamond core of this snow globe. It structures of the flake when I zoom in. That's cool. Yeah. Well, you never know where you're going to be with the general, right? And travel location in the mind. But I'm just showing you how powerful it is when you go past travel lines of the mind and come into the mind of travel. Incalculation system, yes. In the amazing business. Rotation line center and interference position directions. Everything I say is codes. The calculating eye system is all levels of position, but I do things through the mind, not through travel. So the mind sets line signals. That opens all communication to its portal. Portal communication is everything through the ground line center. There's all position location, how you go through electrical lines, electrical walls, electrical defense, electrical panels, electrical line connection interference of a wall. All right, sequence patterns, high channels, rotation centers, command centers, space command interference. There's so many levels of the high center location trap line centers. Rotation interference, position of direction, calculation over timeline, times pi, factor over, run program, initiate, high connections, levels, flight navigation center. Everything I say is in chronological order. And it just constantly flows. So when the mind adaptation comes into all levels of travel, then you come into all formation location to its phenomenon. And it's a beautiful thing, right? So, all right. New programs inserted. Void is beautiful. Place of wonder. Confusion is amazing. That's good. So many to see why we must know ourselves fully. See, that's what it is, Val. Knowing yourself fully on so many line conditions. There's so many compartments to understand your provision, right? So there you go. Feelings, supportive, release, separate grounds, and powerful stuff. Knowing how things are set up in future communication at all levels of your universal line. I feel in balance of me, having to be really aware of me and snow, and through a forming balance relationship with the snow, I can maneuver in all direction in perfect balance. Beautiful. Yeah, you can do that. Dance in the snow, make snow angels. Everything we ask comes. It's amazing how clear it is to see negative as a positive. I asked for release in my future. Well, just wow. But see, that's exactly what it is. It's all about understanding how to get into the mind. It's not the travels of the mind. It's the mind of conception. So these are things you have to understand, right? It's interesting too, because if you look back in clock line center, a reference to position of fused pass line, when I was doing my video line center, it was graphing chronological order. That's 5,000 line center location of channel in position location directions, 1,500 videos setups, right? Through my ascension. Okay. So when you integrate the line center and you communicate the voice line communication system, you're in time frequency times pi. You're in the now line center every time you watch that video of position location of general. It brings you into the now, right? Which is amazing. So everybody correlates with different video locations of commission. Commission over standard line center locations on levels. Echo line centers, zoom position location directions, line communication interference. You can pretty much put anything together because everything you say is in chronological order because you're traveling so fast. There's no faulty in communication. because you're always centering this communication of yin and yang to everything through letter location, numbers, symbols, shapes, right? So understanding that line center, then you understand the communication over its mind, the acceleration in the mind, the vector communication, the acceleration times line times pi times over factor, factor over times pi. So there's a lot of things you have to understand how things are set up in sequence location. Right? One's directing this way and one's directing this way, right? But they're communicating with each other. Right? Interesting, look at that, right? It doesn't always have to be this. So it gets complicated when you go to a higher level location in the altered state mind line system. Right? This is communication to both of them. They're in the opposite line position, but they're communicating with each other. Right? This is communication. Right? There's so many level position locations. This is calculation. This is communication between the both. They don't need to do this. They got this. Understanding the line connection. Right? This is what it is. The more you level its position of high lines in higher level communication and future communication line system, there's so many communications that you can do over time. Cross position, time line. So it's interesting to have said so many line position locations of all levels of structures through its equation. It's amazing when you see these things, right? Because you get to understand what it is. And all of this a factor. Factor equals override, right? Ride connection line system, okay? Positions of directions, bracket surface location. So it's all about understanding the line connections when it comes into the alphabetical line rotation, right? So this comes into ray line communication, over operation to triangulation. So it's important how to use letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols, all information, right? Cross and stream centers, three weather patterns, okay? Fibonacci sequence swirl line, center line rotation. We get a triangle line communication, a pyramid rotation. This is not a triangle, it's a pyramid rotation. Pyramid rotation, center line communication, center line position location, atmosphere location of change. Now line center rotation into flux capacitor, high position location calculation into three waving line center location of grounds. Setting connection levels, circle in rotation, calculation interference, position of direction. Travel communication, center line communication, atom lines, molecular light structure into the Fibonacci sequence location. Flux capacitor high channel, travels that line center interference. Position the opposite circle location is high system. Position of direction. High line channels to the three weather patterns. 3 equals weather. Okay. Weather equals cross. Okay. And cross equals signal. Rotation interference location, all levels into high system. Ooh-ah. So there's so many line centers of communications that you have to understand. If you get a 5-line channel in position locations, and basically if you set the line communication in the same system location, that's a balanced line center with circle location, right? Communicating with each other, right? Now, if you get a 4-line center location equals 5-line position locations, you're off position on 1-line center. So 4 comes into positive over negative, brings up 4 and back into 5 location, right? Balanced communication line centers in position locations. Now you can do a 4-line signal in a square rotation, comes into all line position locations. 4 equals line center location of 5, 5, 5, 5. Hoo-ah. Okay. There's so many setups. You guys have to understand how to sequence line interference, code weaving, code traction. We'll get into that line connections. I think you have to really understand how to set line signals in a rotation to all levels, how to rotate the signal in high interference locations to its sonar, echo chamber communication line stream. So there's a lot of things you have to understand just to know that everything that you're saying is levels of vibration of energy. As long as you stay in the heartline communication system. As long as you stay in the platitude ground line center and space position of the mind line center of travel, you are doing great. The yin and yang process is to understand the lights of you and the track locations of the darks of you. Light and dark is center position of one. One pattern, one rotation, one clocking, one light, one dimension, all at once, right? One time frequency, one interference, one thought pattern, one rotation center, equal locations, run program. So if you understand what you are saying, everything is done. Okay? So it's the storage facility location when it comes into your cloud. Your cloud sets all line position location as calculations. You're setting line center location of grass each time, right? So it's all position, location, direction, right? Once you understand that, it's an application. Comes into all levels of an app line. Now that app line comes into positions to your website's communication center. It puts a highline center when you come into your mainframe communication system. So understanding the hardware and the software and the app line center rotation calculation to its all levels of its avatar, then you understand your line connections when it comes into your cloud of expansion to its bandwidth. The expansion is an exploration of creation. It's already stored in its facility. It's like your computer archives, right? It has communication to its folder. You open up the folder, right? You see photos in there. Pick one, bring it forward, right? Open it up like that. Got everything, face recognition, timeline connection. There you go. So it's already stored, which means you already traveled through it, right? Future communication line center is the mind adaptation of how it sequences its location to its conscious line. The position of the direction stays in its super of its conscious line. Passing line and rotation calculation to the subterranean interference, the subtronic line center, or anything location. All right. So it's really understanding how to travel through all levels of the mind of conception. So, all right. So you guys on the 42 lines in position, taking you guys back. Sequence pattern. All right, you guys are back. It's amazing how you come back in the line center. Remember, it's always specification directions. There's so many levels that you have to understand, right? Once you get more levels of your memory line, your communication interference sets line communication system to all levels of track location. Okay, so they have fun. Flying with Ambi, holding hands, we just flew over our chairs and now going into Atlantis. All right. It's my vision today. I was reading a book and then I found myself in space, zooming in on Earth as a half pipe in the cosmos towards Earth. Very good. That's excellent, Mr. It's communications. It's all levels of you, right? A white deer, massive antlers, feeling at home in the snow. That's interesting because Jill, where's the antlers? Which is interesting. So, pretty powerful when you come in that line connections, right? Understand the lines, all levels of you. Because my avatar needed to hear and comprehend. Just wow. Like I said, getting the information is all levels of future communication of you from inside connections. But the travel is very real. But the mind is the travel, not the traveling of the mind. All right. So the mind adapts its position, knows exactly what it is doing through travel. I just showed you so many structured locations 50 million years in the future. Just like that. Right? You may be confused, you may not be confused. But what you have to understand is centralizes its communication, and that's how you get everything through this manifestation. Okay? Really understand the universe, how it's set up inside of you. Okay? All right. Anything like connections, I will be on TikTok. Other than that, you guys have a wonderful weekend. No school tomorrow. Obviously, familiar day for me. Other than that, I will see you guys Monday morning. Adios.